Number 5.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Batman, the animated series. I have always been a Batman fan. Ever since I can remember, I loved Batman. You know, obviously the 1989 movie, I loved it. My cousin got it for me as a random present one time when he came over. And I remember the first time we were watching it together, he kept on quoting every single line, which kind of got annoying. You know, I was a big fan of the 1960s TV show. When I found out that there was stuff that, you know, like the movie serials that came out before that, I remember when I first found out that they existed, I'm like, oh my god, I need to see those. Then I found out they were making an animated series, and this was like the show after you got home from school that I had to watch. And it was one of the few shows that it really did feel childish watching it. It felt like Star Trek. It felt like, you know, something that was geared more towards being to a dramatic audience rather than a child audience. The writing, it's so good. All the situations that they come up with and different ways to, you know, portray the characters. Like there's this episode where Penguin gets out of jail and he wants to turn over a new leaf, and you actually feel like he does want to do it, but every time he turns around, you know, there's just something sucking him back in. Even Batman's just sucking him back in, and finally he does. And it's really great to see that. Of course, you know, everybody goes on about the Mr. Freeze episode, and that's really good. And I remember when we did a talk show once on Tainted Reality, I went on about Almost Got Him, which is the poker game episode, being my favorite, and everything, you know, about this show really kind of set the standard for what I wanted Batman to be in my life, because you know, Batman's been interpreted so many different ways throughout the years, and really when I think definitive Batman, I think Batman the animated series, just because all the stories in it are just so well written, so memorable. They don't talk down to the child audience, and it's something that even me, somebody in their 20s now, you know, can so heartwarmingly remember years down the road. Number 4.
He's the fastest thing alive.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Yeah, this is another one that I think a lot of you had no doubt would be on here somewhere. And to be honest, it really shouldn't. It shouldn't be on here because it came to me in my life for 2 years. Kind of like after that childhood period where you're just influenced by everything, but before your teenage years where you want to rebel and, you know, absorb different kinds of stuff. It was just kind of there, as you know, in that phase of, you know, endless Saturday morning cartoons. And I was not a fan of Sonic before this show. I didn't, you know, have a Sega Genesis. I had a Super Nintendo. It really should have been there and then forgotten after it got canceled. But it hasn't been forgotten. It has stuck with me for nearly 20 years. It will be 20 years in 2013. And it's still just as strong to me today as it was back then, because they were able to take this game that had no plot whatsoever and turn it into something more, with a vast, rich world that some of you who may just see the first season might be like, ah, it's standard Saturday morning flair, but once you get into the second season, it actually starts to set up a mythology. It actually starts to set up a continuous world, a continuous story. And it is just so well done. It really is one of the greatest tragedies of children's programming that this show did not get a third season, that it couldn't at least reach a conclusion, because it leaves you on that terrible cliffhanger that's just never going to be resolved. And ABC just, you know, stuck its nose up to, you know, getting a third season. And I remember, you know, I saw an interview with the head writer on the DVD release of the show, you know, who really, you know, even, you know, at the time they recorded it, I heard he's given up by now, but at the time that they recorded it, not only did he say, I already had, you know, before the thing got canceled, I had this big plan for the third season. He was like, I'm so willing to do it. I will do it right now if ABC and Dick and Sega, you know, all come back together and reproduce a show. And it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Even though I really think that this show is the reason why the Sonic fandom is so big and so rabid. You know, so rabid. It's crazy, you know? And it's because, you know, it's like, you know, I don't think it's really strictly because of this, but, you know, psychologically, you know, people just want more Sonic. They just want more Sonic, and to me, that was the peak of Sonic media. It's action-packed, it's dark, it has a sense of desperation to it, and it created a sense of drama that in children's programming was rare outside of Batman and to a lesser extent Power Rangers. It didn't talk down to the audience, once again, just like Batman. It really was a cool show, and it's something I can still watch. I can still watch this 20 years later. I mean, there's some moments in the first season where I'm kind of like, you're showing your age, but that second season is just phenomenal. And it's really, really sad to me that to this day, the closest we ever got to a continuation of that was the comic books. And right behind this camera, I got a huge stack of them. And I still to this day pray that some fucking blue moon will come around and make a third season possible, but it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It's just going to always be one of those things that you just wish would happen and it won't. But Sonic, it has just been so inspirational to me, and has, you know, because of this show, has stood as one of the characters in my life that, you know, is just there as a constant. He's iconic to me, and, you know, and he's someone I really, really love. Number 3. Doctor Who. After I was going on about this show just before we pulled the plug on the radio station, I know a lot of you knew that this was going to be on here, but you probably were expecting it to be number 1, and it's not, and there's a couple of reasons for that. Doctor Who's fan-fucking-tastic. Once again, a show that I got into late in the game. I only just got into it back in February, and why I waited so long, I really don't know. You know, when I say Doctor Who, I really mean the revised series, because I've seen every episode of that, and the stories that they set up are just so imaginative, and it's just really cool how the basis of the show basically lets you go anywhere and do anything. You're not restricted to a certain era, a certain time frame, a certain style. It can be anything you want it to be. Now, the big strike I have against Doctor Who is the season finales. The first season finale I saw with Christopher Eccleston was good. That worked. Then, you know, they did the first one with David Tennant where the Cybermen and the Daleks go at it. And I was like, it was okay. And then the one with the Master, and then the one where the Daleks stole Earth, really just, they had amazing setups. They had amazing setups. But payoffs that were just weak. They just didn't feel satisfying. They didn't feel good. Oh, they're able to break the Doctor out of being deformed and, you know, de-evolved into this little mutant thing in a bird cage by everybody saying his name and thinking about him. Everybody pray to the Doctor and it will be well. I didn't like the payoff in the Stolen Earth season finale. The big bang at the end of the first Matt Smith season didn't work, and this last one was really, really disappointing. Once again, brilliant setup. They start setting it up in the very first episode. You're wondering what the fuck is going on, and you get the lamest payoff in the world. I won't ruin it for anybody that's seen it, but let's just say there was 2 ways that the payoff could have gone, and it didn't go with the exact route that I thought it would, but there's 2 ways that they set up in that season where I'm not going to ruin it. I'm not going to ruin it. If you want to talk about it, bring it over to the forums. The recent season finale that was just on last weekend was just terrible. It really was a terrible payoff. But the stories in between are amazing. Like the girl who waited, you know, Amy ages 50 years and is completely that was really good. And oh my god, the fucking Doctor's wife The Neil Gaiman episode, oh my god, that stands as one of the best episodes of the series I've seen so far. And it's just like, as long as you stay away from the season finales, Doctor Who is a brilliant show. But the season finales just have the worst payoffs in the world, and they feel like rush jobs rather than anything that, you know, builds up to this really dramatic climax. So Doctor Who is fantastic. I love it to death. But I really need to see some better season finales. Number 2.